Has anyone else noticed that most pop songs now just don't have a bridge anymore? If you felt like recently pop songs have been getting shorter, you wouldn't be wrong. A UCLA study pulled data from Spotify to find that the average song length of popular songs has decreased by about 46 seconds from 2010 to 2020, almost an entire minute in just one decade. People speculate various reasons for that: the importance of TikTok and short-form content in music, the nature of streaming, the music industry shifting toward favoring more replayable songs, and many other reasons. It's not really one specific thing. But what I want to talk about today is a similar, possibly related shift in the way pop songs themselves are structured. More often than not, the bridge is starting to get left out. To understand this shift, we need to understand what exactly are the components of a typical pop song. You probably are familiar with the verse-chorus form. There's a chorus, which is the part that repeats throughout the song, giving you the main idea, usually the title. It sticks in your head and makes you remember the song. It's what you always come back to. Then there's the verses, which are more dynamic and provide background to that chorus to fill in the gaps. In most pop songs, there are two iterations of verse-chorus, followed by a bridge, which is meant to be different from everything else we've already heard. It creates some sort of pivot in the song, whether musically or lyrically, and usually establishes some new context to then lead us into the final chorus, whether it be emphasizing the main point of the song or putting a new spin on it. The bridge can be the most memorable part of the song for that very reason. It leaves a lasting impression, it makes that final chorus hit even harder, and ultimately it makes the whole song more worthwhile to listen to. However, you may have noticed recently, a lot of hit songs now just end after the second chorus. Maybe that second chorus is extended in some way to give the end of the song a bit more punch, otherwise why would you listen to the end? But then that's it. No bridge, no pivot, no addition to the story. And I'm not saying that in a bad way, it's just a shift I'm pointing out, but it's way more common to do this now than I think it used to be. Here are a bunch of examples of hit songs without bridges from just the last 2 years. In fact, all the songs I'm going to use as examples in this video are hits from 2023 onward.
These beautiful things that I've got, please stay. Good boys are layup, good boys are layup. Yeah, 360. When you're in the mirror, do you like what you see? When you're in the mirror, you're just looking at me.
At the body shop, doing something unholy. He's
Birds of a feather, we should stick together. I know I said it never.
I feel the rush, addicted to your touch. Oh, I feel the rush.
It's so good. I'm better on Saturn. Gotta don't break this pattern. I put that on my mama, on my hood. I look fly, I look good. But you've been so hard to touch. That about you way too much. Push the stars. Pushing on my buttons with no hesitation.
I love it and I hate it at the same time. You and I drink the poison from the same.
Many times the song might have longer verses or extend the length of the second chorus to still make the song feel full length. But undeniably, none of these songs have that pivotal bridge moment after the second chorus that introduces something new. Another way to make the song feel full length without a bridge is to have a chorus at the start. In fact, this is pretty common throughout pop music, not just the last couple years, but you'll still notice that in these songs, after the first 2 full cycles of verse-chorus, the song ends. There is still no bridge. Here's more examples of that.
Now he's thinking about me every night. Oh, is it that sweet? I guess so.
You my little boo thing, so I don't give a hoot what you do. Say, girl, I know you a little too tame.
I wanna make you mine. But even with nothing on, bet I made you look. I made you look.
Baby, you're priceless. I never had anything like this. I'm missing my.
I let all that get to my head. I don't care, I paint the town red, bitch.
Now that's about 18 songs in total that I've noticed, which might not sound like a lot, but many of these songs have undeniably been some of the biggest radio hits of the last couple years. And as you can probably see, it's for a reason. These songs make their point and then hammer down on it. Most of these songs also have 2-part choruses, or a chorus followed by a hook, which has always been fairly common in pop music, but it's especially common here in particular. Again, trying to push more things that stick in your brain to keep your attention versus having a bridge that extends the story of the song. And I think that's the trade-off that's going on here. It creates an element of simplicity to these songs that I think just appeals to people more broadly these days. This allows radios, streaming platforms, and ultimately the artists themselves to get you excited about the song, but move on to the next one before they lose your attention. And I think that's what allows these to turn into such massive hits.
I'm interested in the fact that Birds has become what it has become. I kind of felt like that was one that would potentially be seen as a hit or whatever, but I wasn't sure. It's fascinating what people are gravitated towards.
Now, I do think there are certain genres that utilize this structure more than others, one of those very critically being dance pop. Dance pop is all about getting you on your feet, having a good time, and once the sound of the chorus has been established, the artist wants to keep you there, dancing, rather than pivoting away to something else like a bridge would do. And so usually after 2 choruses and a bit of repetition, the artist is ready to move on to the next thing. Literally, there is only one song on the entirety of Brat that has a full verse, chorus, bridge, chorus song structure, and that's Hello Goodbye, which, funnily enough, is the least popular song on the album, though I would have to disagree. Brat is kind of a tricky thing to do this with because a lot of songs don't really have a defined pop structure. They just kind of establish an idea and roll with it in a bunch of different ways. But that is kind of the whole idea of dance pop again, ditching a defined structure in favor of just feel-good vibes. And I think that's really interesting how a phenomenon that's always been prevalent in dance pop is kind of making its way into mainstream, having that sweet release of a hook that is fun and grabs your attention, but then quickly moving on to the next song and keeping you engaged. If you ask me, it's kind of giving indicator of recession pop, but I don't know, who's to say I didn't say that? Another genre that pretty commonly utilizes this structure is hip-hop pop fusion. A great example of recent is Doja Cat. A lot of her songs don't have a bridge, and instead put a chorus on at the start of the song to still make the whole thing feel full length. Hip-hop pop fusion is already doing a lot in blending catchy melodious hooky choruses with long rap heavy verses, so I don't think there's really a need to pivot to a bridge most times. And many of Doja Cat's biggest hits are structured this way: Say So, Woman, and Agora Hills, just to name a few. Okay, so great. Songs are getting shorter overall because of streaming and TikTok brain, and so bridges are starting to disappear in pop music, right? Well, sorta kinda. First off, there are still a lot of hit songs in recent years that not only have bridges and use the full song form, but that I feel like were especially successful because of their bridges. Like I said at the start, a good bridge can often define an entire song, and that magic in a bridge that sweeps you away, that hasn't disappeared. Lots of recent hits have bridges that added a ton of power to the final chorus and really made the entire song come together. Let's take a look at some of those examples, and I'm going to talk about them a little bit as we go through each to explain why the bridge was so important.
You know I hate to say, but I tell you so.
Easily one of the biggest songs of 2024, undeniably the bridge is kind of what makes the entire thing. The anger and frustration in When You Wake Up Next to Him in the Middle of the Night, the way Chappell Roan's voice just soars at the end as she exclaims, "I told you so," the way those ad-libs continue into the final chorus, and you can still hear that anger in her voice. It is so powerful, and that's what makes listening to the end of the song so worth it, so you could hear that entire story arc from start to finish. In fact, this is the case with a lot of Chappell Roan's biggest hits: Hot to Go, Casual, Feminine Phenomenon. The bridge going into the final chorus is what makes the entire song, and oftentimes the part that people remember the most. She really takes advantage of that standard songwriter pop form and just excels with it, and tons of people have latched onto that despite even these recent shifts in pop music.
Made it out alive, but I think I lost it. Said that I was fine, said it from my car. Never have I died.
I was surprised to see this song go as viral as it did and end up becoming one of Gracie Abrams' most streamed songs to date. When it came out on the deluxe version of The Secret of Us, I kinda just thought it was another version of Risk. That is until the bridge, which really ramps up the tension of the song, and it's just so addicting to listen to with all the fast lyrics, Gracie's anger coming through in her voice, leading us into the final chorus, which hits even harder, again due to the emotion of the bridge. And again, it's not just me who thinks so. That is literally the part of the song that went viral and caused it to become such a massive hit. Earlier, I talked about Birds of a Feather being the biggest hit from Hit Me Hard and Soft. And it still is. But similar to That's So True, there's another song from the album that was originally just a B-side, but ended up taking off later on and blowing up primarily due to its bridge, and that is Wildflower. The sheer emotion of the bridge, the way it ramps up the tension of the song and sweeps you in, putting an entirely new spin on the final, softer chorus.
In the backseat.
Now don't get all up on your high horses. This song is really, really good. And the bridge is kind of why. The bridge involves a key change, but not going up as with most pop songs, but going down. And it kind of just puts a whole new spin on the final chorus. It makes it feel even more like sensual and chill and lo-fi, as the whole song already is. But more than anything, I think that's what showcased that Addison Rae was taking her art seriously, and thus helped establish her as a worthwhile dance pop artist. She would not be being taken seriously whatsoever right now if this comeback wasn't good, but it was, and now she's competing on the charts with some of the biggest pop singers of our generation. Now, those are just some examples of songs that I think were specifically popular because of their bridges that I wanted to highlight. But I'm going to list some more hit songs from the last couple years that I think had pretty iconic bridges, or at least they were iconic to me. Even if they didn't define the whole song, they still showcase the power that a bridge can have. And here are some examples of that.
Said it was true love, but wouldn't that be hard? You can't love anyone, 'cause that would mean you had a heart. We gon' fuck up the night.
Sonic, sexy, erotic on my body. Boy, you got it.
I know that you made me. I don't like how you paint me. You ain't that the worst thing you ever heard. He looks up pretty like a devilish. Cause I'm coming to get you, get you, get you. Hold on, I'm on my way. Save my soul.
All these songs demonstrate that bridges are still relevant and important in modern pop music. It would be a far stretch to say that music trends or TikTok has completely killed off the bridge. Then what's even more interesting is there's a lot of songs that still kinda have bridges, but to reconcile the inclusion of a bridge with the overall trend of keeping songs more concise, the song instead chops off just the final chorus, and the bridge turns into an outro. A lot of songs I mentioned at the start that don't have bridges did have some stuff after the second chorus that could be seen as an outro, but those were always just extensions of the final chorus in some way, and they sounded like things that you already knew. These outros, though, feel new in some way. They introduce some new lyrics or a new musical idea, just like a normal bridge would do, pivoting the song away from what you already know. But then the song ends there, instead of being an actual bridge to a final chorus. Now here are some examples of that.
What is that? I can make it all right.
Lorde is a great example. All of her singles from her first album, Pure Heroine, from 12 years ago all had full-length bridges and final choruses. Meanwhile, all the singles for her upcoming release, Virgin, followed this revised structure, including a short outro after the second chorus to introduce something new, but then ending the song there.
If you wanna go and be stupid, don't.
Sabrina Carpenter similarly has done pretty standard pop music that followed the known structure for most of her career, like the singles from Emails I Can't Send. But the singles for Short and Sweet, where she entirely rebranded, were kind of designed to take advantage of the shift in form. Espresso entirely lacked a bridge, and Please 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 has a bridge-like outro but no third chorus. Funnily enough, Nonsense from Emails was not originally a single, but it's the song that ended up taking off the most, and that kind of defined Sabrina Carpenter's entire rebrand. And guess what form it follows? That's right, it has a bridge-like outro, but then it ends there. Not to say these are the only songs that can blow up, but it's an interesting pattern. Taylor Swift has of course been writing songs for 20 years and I think has a pretty established form that she sticks to, and is especially known for writing excellent bridges. But even she still kind of plays into the shift. The only two singles from her most recent album, The Tortured Poets Department, Fortnight and I Can Do It With a Broken Heart, both don't have final choruses, and thus don't technically have bridges. They have bridge-like outros instead. And honestly, the outro of I Can Do It With a Broken Heart can barely even be classified as one. It's just her talking. And these aren't the only songs on TTPD to do this, but it's interesting that these two are the ones that she chose as singles to promote the era. Whether that was intentional or not, I do think it shows that this shift is something all artists, even the really established ones, are aware of and being affected by. Now, those are the ones that I wanted to talk about, but here are a few more examples.
People trying to talk business. Leave me alone, babe.
Remember, the magic of a bridge comes from that pivot and the introduction of something new. So even if it doesn't lead to a third chorus, it can still be powerful to just include that in some form at the end of the song and leave the listener with one final special thing. But move on before you lose their attention. Now, I've talked about 3 categories of songs so far. Those that lack bridges entirely, those that have bridge-like outros, and those with full bridges and final choruses. I was curious to see, are songs without bridges actually shorter than those with them? Obviously, I haven't included every single hit song with each structure, but when you just take the averages of the songs I did include, then actually, yeah. As expected, the songs without bridges overall are shorter than those with bridges. Don't take this as solid proof of anything. This is just off a very small selection of songs that I specifically know, but I think it's interesting to just see how these patterns begin to play out when at least surveying some hit songs. The real data does prove that overall pop songs are getting shorter across the board, regardless of their structure. And is the lack of bridges correlated to songs getting shorter? It would seem so, based on what I've gathered so far. But honestly, here's my personal take on this. I think people nowadays just want simpler songs, whether they're shorter or not. And I think the growing lack of bridges in pop is much more reflective of changes in songwriting style among newer artists and what they need to do to become mainstream. A lot of the hit songs I mentioned that do have bridges come from pretty well-established artists that have a certain songwriting style their fans already know well and that the artist likely wants to stick to. Not all of them, but many of them. And if the song happens to blow up because of its bridge, then that's great. Meanwhile, a lot of the hit songs I mentioned that don't have bridges tend to come from either more up-and-coming artists, so to say, or from artists intentionally trying to create their breakout hit. Again, take Espresso by Sabrina Carpenter. Sabrina has been in the pop music game for years, and this is not her first time having a hit by any means, but you do kind of have to admit there's a cleverness to how Espresso was designed. It's catchy but concise, dare I say short and sweet, which was the whole theme of this new era she was going for. And guess what? Espresso is the song that ended up taking over the summer. It became one of the biggest songs of 2024, and it ultimately catapulted Sabrina to where she is now, more than any of her previous hits. A lot of the other songs I mentioned were breakout hits for their respective artists as well, pushing them into mainstream through these catchy, short, concise, to-the-point songs that grab your attention and make you want more, but don't quite give you that more just yet. 360 by Charli XCX, Beautiful Things by Benson Boone, Boys a Liar Part 2 by Pink Panthers, Push to Start and Water by Tyla. Another great example is Cat's Eye, the new international girl group that's on the rise, who I might do a video on later, stay tuned. Literally their entire debut EP was full of sub-3-minute songs lacking bridges, pushing a catchy chorus out with a fun choreography and moving right along to the next song. But that worked so well for them. They've amassed tons of fans who love their music because frankly, the sound they've created is pretty addicting, and their formula intentionally does that. And it's the same principle for even bigger artists who might have a specific style, but might be marketing the songs that more fit the bridgeless form. So in essence, I think that's what this shift is reflective of, a way for artists nowadays to get people's attention. And I don't think it just means make your song shorter and call it a day. I think it means designing your song in a specific way. Remember, the songs I discussed without bridges have very noticeable hooks, in addition to the main chorus of the song. Now, hooks aren't anything new, they've been around forever, but in particular, it almost feels like these songs have multiple choruses, each of which is equally designed to grab your attention and hook you in. That, I think, has become the priority in pop music, mainly because the more hooks you have, the more chance you have of going viral. There's multiple elements that you can market from, create challenges from, that can become the new trending TikTok sound, all of which give the song a higher chance of being that breakout hit that puts you into the mainstream. Think about Anxiety by Doechii catchy that has like 3 different hooks all at once, which is probably why you and I have heard that song many more times than we need to by this point. And again, I don't think this phenomenon is just a consequence of songs getting shorter due to music industry standards. I think it has more to do broadly with how new songs are getting marketed and pushed out to audiences, and what it takes for an artist to have a viral breakout hit. Considering how much music we are bombarded with every single day, everyone is doing what they can to have their espresso moment. All in all, whether you're a fan of these shifts or not, whether you want to blame TikTok or music labels or people now having the attention span of goldfishes for the lack of bridges in pop, I don't really think there is any need to point fingers. Music is constantly changing, faster than we can ever keep up. And I don't think any particular shift is good or bad. It's just music changing with the trends and what the industry demands, and artists trying to play into that so they can be successful. But just because an artist plays into a certain shift doesn't mean they're selling out. Just because a song goes viral on TikTok doesn't make it a TikTok song. Just because a song is overplayed doesn't mean it's inherently bad. Yes, I'm looking at the Benson Boone haters, I'm looking at the Tate McRae haters, I'm looking at the Lola Young haters. I'm already seeing video essays online of why people hate Benson Boone, even though this man just started taking off. Like, goddamn, do y'all have anything better to do than hate on new artists who are actually out there getting their bag while you're at home eating Frosted Flakes straight out of the carton? It does seem like dropping the bridge and focusing in on the chorus is kind of the formula now to go viral, but those songs very much still exist outside the bubble of social media. People enjoy them and listen to them and make meaning from them, which is what music is all about. And I don't think it's fair for any of us to deny that just because you might think a song is bad, or just because social media is designed to push the same 3 songs into your algorithm reel after reel until your sleep paralysis demon is suddenly singing Shake It to the Max in the corner of your bedroom at 3 a.m. Wait, what? I don't really know what I'm saying anymore, but the key point is that there is no one single formula for songwriting. You can write a 2.5-minute song with an incredible bridge, or a 5-minute song without one. It's all just about how you want to make music that moves people.
I like to make music that moves people.
I'm lucky enough to get to take songwriting classes at my college, and both writing songs of my own and seeing other people's writing process is so eye-opening to how individual and personal songwriting can really be. New artists are gonna do what they need to do to get their bag. It's a dog-eat-dog world out there. But instead of dragging an artist down the moment they go viral, support them. Help them find their unique sound and what makes them unique. And if you don't like them, move on. It's that simple. Anyways, that's all for this video. Let me know down below if you agree with my analysis, if you've noticed these changes as well. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I talk a lot about pop music, we have fun, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!